Week 25, the final full week of the NBA 2021-22 season is over, which means it's time to run it back. This is Run It Back, NBA Week in Review.
The voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money. You can cash it. For news on LA hoops, come over to Beach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports, debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket, coming tune on air. The Peach Basket, where the news begins. We're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the avid fans.
This is a show where we recap the week that was, then take a deep dive into that week for select teams. Tonight, we will highlight the best performers of week 25, take a deep dive into the week with the LA Clippers and Los Angeles Lakers, then discuss the NBA question of the day. Like you, we are basketball fans first, but we know most basketball fans are fans of other sports in general. Fans of sport in general, really. With that in mind, just a quick reminder that there are 2 titles up for grabs on the stacked UFC 273 fight card. Join the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. New customers can bet $5 on any fighter and get $100 in free bets, win or lose, guaranteed. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Throw down $5 on UFC 273 and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code TBPN this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC and sponsor of Run It Back, NBA Week in Review. We're going to start our show today by taking a look back at the best performers of week 25. These are the players that average the most in 5 categories: the best scoring, rebounding, assists, steals, and blocks averaged in week 25. These are the top performers of the week. We start with Nikola Jokic. He became the first player in NBA history with 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists in a season. Wow. The Joker's ready to make some noise in the playoffs. Davion Mitchell made the Sacramento Kings and their fans proud in week 25 with a 17-assist game, breaking the Kings' rookie record of 15.
Yeah, Jones is playing good defense on him, but we got a Jones too. Inside, great post up by Metu. He has CJ McCollum in jail.
The greats in this game do more than one thing. They are multifaceted. Nikola Jokic is multifaceted. He averaged 17 rebounds in week 25 to lead the association. Desmond Bane led everyone in the NBA with 4 steals a game in the final full week of the NBA season. Mitchell Robinson has been in this category before. He averaged 4 blocks a game in week 25 to lead the Knicks and the association. Congratulations to the best to do it in week 25 of the NBA 21-22 season. Let's start by dropping the pin in Los Angeles and talk Los Angeles Lakers. I really didn't want to focus specifically on the Lakers' final week, and I'm not going to focus on the Clippers' final week record, their concern, or the team news. I'm just going to talk about their season overall. And it's really no shock to anybody that the Lakers right now are in disarray. Laker fans are vocal about their disappointment with the team. What I love about Lakers fans is they're hard on their team. They really are. They legitimately are. They just don't like it when other people are hard on their team, and I get that. I understand it. The Lakers made a mistake. They made several offseason mistakes. And now the dilemma for the Los Angeles Lakers is that they don't really have a way out. They can hope that Russell Westbrook opts out, which is unlikely. They can hope that another team is willing to take on his salary, which is also unlikely. Or they can run it back, which seems most likely, but just not at all a pleasant idea for Los Angeles. Now, fan of our, no, I shouldn't call him a fan of the show. I hope he's a fan of the show, but certainly a friend of the show, Trevor Lane, who runs LakerNation.com, had a very interesting trade idea involving the Lakers and the Hornets. And any trade for Russell Westbrook is not about who the Lakers get back, because at this point we know Westbrook was not a fit, and just about any player coming back would be I don't want to say an upgrade, but would be welcome, over what we saw in this season for the Lakers. So it's never about, who the Lakers are getting, but why would a team take on Westbrook? And Trevor makes a great case for the Hornets. They've got some big contracts coming up. LaMelo Ball, Bridges. They know that these players are going to demand a lot of money, so they need to have a lot of money ready. What they could do if they take on this expiring contract for, say, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, they could run Westbrook for a season. And Westbrook, as he's shown throughout his career, can be really good on the right team. It might work okay for the Hornets for one season. But then after that season, that $47 million is off the books, and all of a sudden they've got some money to re-sign their young studs. It makes sense, and it's going to have to be a trade like that saves the Lakers from a repeat in 2022-23. It's going to have to take a team willing to take on that large expiring contract. And that's the one thing the Lakers have. They have their first-round draft pick, which they've been hesitant to give up in the past because they don't have a lot of them. But they do have a $47 million expiring contract for a player who, is former MVP, has proven to be great in the right environment. So my guess is the Lakers are going to do everything they can to move Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is going to opt in. The other interesting thing hovering over the Lakers right now, is what to do with Coach Vogel. I'm in the minority. If you look at Los Angeles Lakers Twitter comments, I don't think Vogel was to blame. He was given a team with some flaws and did the best he could. I think he just kept looking for the right combination. He couldn't find it. Of course, injuries cost the team a ton. You could absolutely dissect just about every coach's substitution patterns, especially on a losing team. And I'm sure he made his mistakes. I'm certain of it. But this is also a coach who won a championship. This is a coach who knows what it takes to get there. As long as Coach Vogel has the confidence in the ear of his team, I think he should be allowed to stay. Number one, because of his track record. Not this season, really, but beyond that, before that. But also because who are you going to get that's any better? You look at teams, like the Jazz, who have been riding with Quinn Snyder. And I know that they had a really bad fall at the end of the season. So that may not be a great example, but the Spurs with Coach Popovich, there's a lot to be said for consistency, and the Lakers haven't had that really since Pat Riley. Phil Jackson, that's true, Phil Jackson. But ever since then, it's just been stopgaps. It's been these one-year contracts and these coaches that come in and leave. And I just think it's time for the Lakers to put a flag in the ground and say, this is our guy. And you could do worse than Vogel. And if you can do better than him, fine, find the better guy, but or girl. But I just don't know that that person exists right now. So the Lakers' season is over, not quite yet. They're dipping their toes into the next week, but unfortunately not to participate in the play-in and not to participate in the playoffs. Their season is done, and a very interesting offseason begins. Um, Evan Moore wrote a great recap for the Lakers. I have been teasing an article that I wrote, which identifies, based on metrics, that this is the second worst season in NBA Laker history. Without going a whole lot of detail about it here, because it really does need to be explained, I took a look at metrics dating all the way back to '84, and based on expectations and actual results, this is the second worst season in Laker history. And again, it's scoreboard. I'm an analytical guy, so I will be breaking that down analytically, and look for that in the next couple of days. I hope. So yeah, sad to see what happened to the Lakers. Their expectations were high, their performance was low, and it is what it is. The off season begins, and they're, the other really great thing about Los Angeles Laker fans is they're eternally optimistic, and let's hope that their optimism is rewarded in the offseason. Let's turn our attention now to the other team in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Clippers. Unlike the Lakers, they had a pretty good overall season, especially when you consider the situation they found themselves in. Like the Lakers, they had a lot of injuries, but unlike the Lakers, they were able to overcome them. And you look at the things that we said weren't evident in for the Lakers, consistency in Ty Lue, which isn't fair because Ty Lue's been there just as long as Coach Vogel. But there's consistency in how everything plays together for the Clippers. From ownership to the players to the coach. They all seem to bought into a process. Whereas with the Lakers, there seems to be some infighting, some disagreements about what direction to take a particular team or that particular team. So the Clippers, did a little bit better. Again, the graphics, if you happen to be watching, I'm not going to concentrate on that. Let's just kind of recap their season overall. They were without Kawhi. They were without Paul George. They traded for Norman Powell and immediately lost him. And just a wild season. But the Clippers kept winning. At the end of the day, their season finishes at 500. That's enough to make it to the play-in. They will likely go into the playoffs, barring an upset, and as a 7th or 8th seed, and face either the Phoenix Suns or the Memphis Grizzlies. I'll save my thoughts on those potential matchups when we see what those potential matchups are, which we'll see at the end of next week when we do our show next week. But right now, the Clippers are pretty good. They're pretty happy. They've got one game to finish the season, and then they're going to go into the play-in against the Timberwolves to see who represents the NBA Western Conference in the 7th and 8th spot. They got Norman Powell back. They got Paul George back, and all of the other players who held down the fort got better. Luke Kennard got some confidence. Amir Coffey has proven to be just an amazing and valuable player. The minutes he gets, he makes an impact. Robert Covington has just been incredible. And you could go on. And that's generally what you want to see when your best players are out. You want to see the supporting staff take it up a level. The Lakers didn't get that. LeBron certainly took it up a level, but the others didn't. With the Clippers, it was really they spread the wealth, and a lot of players got better, and now they get Paul George back, and now they get Norman Powell back. As is the case with anything involving Kawhi Leonard, there's no, there's just literally no news. He could play tonight. He could play in the play-in. Who knows? The Clippers aren't saying a word, and nobody's leaking anything from Kawhi's camp. Anything you hear otherwise is just made up. nonsense. I think the Clippers are going into this. Well, the Clippers probably know, stuff that you and I don't know. But I would think that, Coach Lue is just coaching as if he is not going to show up. And if he does, great. We'll plug him in. And that's really the mentality of the Los Angeles Clippers, which is pretty exciting if you're a Clippers fan. It's less about the personnel and more about the process, right? We play this way. And if we have a player that, we can kind of fit into that process, that's better than the player we got now. And Kawhi Leonard would be, better than just about anybody on the Clippers right now. They're just, take that one player out, put that one player in, and they'll continue that same process. So things are looking pretty good. Norman Powell came back recently and said that, his Clippers, these Clippers remind him of the team on the Raptors that ended the season pretty good. This is a team that could scare people if things fall right. If Kawhi can come back, even more. I tweeted not too long ago that the Clippers without Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Norman Powell were a play-in team, at best, and they might eke out, 7th and 8th seed, or and then an early round exit. They get Paul George and Robert Covington back. Now all of a sudden that ceiling goes up a little bit. Not Robert Covington, but Norman Powell. All of a sudden, they're a second round team, with the potential to make it to the Western Conference Final. They get all three back, include Kawhi, and all of a sudden, the sky's the limit. That is a championship caliber team. Now they were a championship caliber team in the bubble, and they blew it. They've been a championship caliber team in the past, and they've blown it. They've had 3-1 leads, and they've blown it. We know their history. But I don't think anybody would tell you differently. This is a championship caliber team if they get all of their pieces back. We'll see if they do or if they don't. But unlike the Lakers, they have some season left to play. And their next season looks pretty good for them because they, a lot of their key players are set, are under contract. We won't go into next season until the season is over for the Clippers. So that's it. That is our recap of Los Angeles Lakers and Los Angeles Clippers. Before we get to the NBA question of the day, though, a quick reminder to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Throw down $5 on UFC 273 and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code TBPN this Saturday. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC and sponsor Run It Back, NBA Week in Review. All right, let's talk NBA question of the day. This one's going to be brief because, again, it's just me. So you're going to get my thoughts. If you happen to be watching us on Facebook, let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. This has always been, always meant to be an interactive show. I'd love to get your thoughts on this question. The play-in tournament, it's here to stay. I don't see it going away. The NBA likes it. It definitely, regardless of how you feel about it, what seems to be factual is that it keeps interest in more teams longer into the season. That's a fact. And I think that's what the NBA wanted. They got it. It's not going away. So what else would you like to see implemented in the NBA? The NBA has proven to be, willing to grow, to expand, to experiment. So what else would you like to see coming into the NBA? And I think I could have 10 people here and they'd have 10 different opinions. Right now, I'm the only one with the mic, so I'm going to give you mine. I don't like inconsistency in refereeing. And I don't think any player in the NBA would disagree with me. One day it's a charge, the next day it's not. For one player it's a foul, for another player it's not. That kind of stuff I think just really takes away from the game. And the game is good enough. We need to find a way to make the referees' calls more consistent. Now, the opportunity to challenge is good. That's a step in the right direction, right? And we've seen some pretty important calls overturned because they took another look. and they saw that it was wrong. I mean, there's situations where there's three refs, so there's three sets of eyeballs, and then the ref who's most poorly positioned to make a call makes the call, and the other two refs don't say a word. I always thought that was weird. I mean, there should be kind of a meeting of the minds. But more than likely, I think what happens with refs is they manage a particular area. So they're not all looking at the ball. They're looking at three different areas. So not all three refs look at the same thing. But again, you get back to the whole element of human error. You get to the element of human emotion. Maybe a ref doesn't like a particular player, or player's chirping a lot. We've seen some very questionable calls by some of the refs that come up over and over again. Some of them have become kind of infamous because of it. So anyway, that's the problem. How do you fix it? Listen, I'm a tech guy. That's my day job. And I don't think there's any doubt that we could, for certain calls, implement technology. Let's start with what I think is the most obvious one, the goaltending rule. It's really pretty simple. The ball is going up, you can block it. If the ball is coming down, you can't. That's it. I mean, the only caveat to that rule, right, is the backboard. If it hits the backboard, you can't touch it anymore. Those things are all manageable and viewable through technology. You can determine quickly whether something's going up or down. The minute the ball reaches its apex and starts to move down, a computer can sense that. It can determine that. It can be taught to. As soon as the backboard is touched, it can be taught to. Now, I'm just talking with cameras, right? The ability to make that call. If you add some kind of mechanism to the ball that will allow to track the movement, the touch, then all of a sudden the game changes across the board. So what I'm saying is not to get rid of referees, but let's say for goaltending, right? As soon as there's a goaltend call, the ref makes his or her call, and if there's a concern, you immediately look. And this is the other thing I think I would add. I would add a fourth referee who just sits on the sidelines. That referee, their job is to take a look at what the monitors are saying. And that referee immediately knows, yeah, that's a clean block. The computer didn't complain. That ball was on its way up. So he immediately waves off. It's a good call, right? Thumbs up, whatever it might be. And that fourth referee who's on the sidelines, that one's the person responsible for reviewing all of the challenges as well. And there you go. I mean, what you've got then, you've got consistent calls. If we can, get to the point where you can, eliminate the controversy around goaltends, well, then we'll move to charges and blocks, right? That's a tough one. Let's get that right. Then we'll move to, gee whiz, there's so many others that you could think of. Was this foot on the line or not on a 3? All of these things are really easy, theoretically to fix using technology. And I, for one, would like to see it. So that's my take. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know some people may not be, particularly fond of, having to go to the computer, letting the computer make the call. Get that, understand it. But I think for my money, it can be the lesser of two evils. And it helps us get these calls right. All right. That's it. That's our show. The idea today was to keep it short. It's just me. The season's winding down. But before I let you go, I want to thank you all for watching and listening, not just today, but this season. This is a passion project for me. I enjoy doing this. I'm not going to stop. And I want to tell you a little bit, like I did last week, about who we are. The peachbasket.net was started so that I could write about teams I knew well. I've written for other sites, including Bleacher Report, LA Times, and others. And I wanted to have a little bit more control about what I could write. And so I got the advice to start my own. I did it, and it's been nothing but fun. And over the years, we've grown. We've brought in more people. Today, we have over 50 contributors throughout the USA and outside of the US. We branched out to include podcast, streaming, social media, and more. We've identified people that they really want to focus on social media and are great at it. We've identified people that are, want to work on live streaming and are great at it. And we're growing. I mean, we're growing, and there's no other way to put it. And I think every year, every season, we're going to get a little bit better. This season, we had our first writer credential for the NBA, which is wild. They showed up at a game, at an NBA game, with a Peach Basket media badge, which is incredible. Super excited about that. Super excited about our partnership with the Basketball League, a growing minor league with franchises throughout the USA. That partnership allows us to attend games, to interview players and coaches, and to really get a feel for what it's going to be like. Maybe to go to an NBA game, a WNBA game, G League games moving forward. That league is amazing. They're community based, and they've given us that ability. And we want to give that ability to you. Now, you might just like, reading, listening, and watching original fan-based basketball content. Great. Consider us. Read here, listen here, watch here, thepeachbasket.net. But if you've ever been curious about doing it, writing about basketball, podcasting, streaming, live tweeting, we want you to reach out to us at thepeachbasket.net. We mean it when we say we exist to amplify the voice of passionate basketball fans worldwide. We're growing. We have opportunities. We have credentialed writers. You could write, you could podcast, you could stream, you could attend professional basketball games, interview players, interview coaches at the minor league level. And now we can honestly say at the NBA level. That's the road we're on. We are excited to continue to grow, and we would love to have you come along for the ride. If you have any interest, let us know. Let's grow together. I just think it'd be super fun to have more people along for the ride. At least as many people as want to be along for the ride. That's it. That is our show. Week 25 of the NBA 2021-22 season is in the books. Join us next week when we run back week 26, which includes the results of the play-in tournament. We will know then who's playing who in the playoffs. Thanks for watching. As always, thank you for listening. As always, we'll talk again next week.
The voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money. You can cash it. For news on LA Hoops, come over to Peach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports. Debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan, making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket, come and tune on in. The Peach Basket, where the news begins. We're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the average fan.